Okay. I'd like to call the August 9th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. First of all, would you please turn your microphones on and pull them forward, especially with the mask. We want to get them closer to us, make sure we get a good sound here and good recording, okay? Okay, so we'd like to call the meeting to order. Ms. Robertson, would you please call the roll?
So I have Chris LaFlamme,
Here.
Leslie Gold.
Present.
Oh, my microphone's not on. Patrick McPartland.
Here.
Mo Oster.
Here.
Daisy Schenfeld. Oops, Daisy Schenfeld. Schenfield. Daisy. Oh,
We
weird.
can't hear anything more.
How about Mr. Khan? Ask if he's there.
I will probably
I have a whole meeting here.
need that.
They're gonna call me when I'm ready.
Should keep it plugged in then,
Huh?
should keep your phone plugged in.
So Claire, can you hear us now?
We just lost the network.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, Claire, or Daisy Schenfeld, can you stay here? Oh, no, see, that's really messed up the audio. Okay, well, can you stay here again? Here? Right. Hold.
So she's on the phone?
Yes, Genghis Khan. And Chairman Walsh.
Here. And that's a little low, so if they speak, just hold your phone up to the microphone, please. I apologize, we're changing protocols for this evening, and we're having a hybrid meeting, so please bear with us, and we'll get through this successfully, all right? All right, so we're through with the roll call, so we have the approval of the minutes from the July 12th, 2021 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. McPartland, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Laflamme. Changes, I have one that affects two lines. And it's line 23 and line 25, and that's on page 1. And it says the minutes from the July 12th, and tonight's, it's not the July 12th meeting that were approved. That was the July 12th meeting minutes that we're reviewing. So those minutes that we approved during the July 12th were the minutes from the June 7th meeting according to the older agenda. So we have to change it on line 23 and 25 to June 7th, 2021, okay? I went back to the agenda to validate that. That was the only changes I have. Anybody else have any other changes or comments? Anybody remotely have any changes or comments?
No.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, we'll just make a friendly modification. All those in favor of the minutes as slightly modified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the meeting minutes from the July 12th meeting are approved. We have no public hearings, and so we'll move right to privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskayuna, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for record. We'll listen to what you have to say. So privilege of the floor is open. Anybody here in the meeting room would like to speak privilege of the floor? Laura, do we have anybody online that would like to speak?
No,
No. Do we receive any communications?
no emails.
No emails. Okay, I'll just give it one more talk. Anybody else? Okay, hearing or seeing no one for privilege of the floor, we'll close privilege of the floor. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll move right to new business. Under new business, we have a couple of resolutions. First resolution being Resolution 2021-26, a resolution for site plan approval of a tenant change for Lounge Day Beauté Hair and Scalp Salon at 3620 State Street. I'll summarize the resolution as soon as I find it. What number is that? 26. And basically, for this resolution, it's resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan and tenant change. So this is a tenant change from Tangles to a different salon. Mr. Miller is here present. Do I have a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Move for adoption by Mr. Laflamme. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Oster. Any comments at all?
I would just like to thank the applicant for a very thorough application.
Yep.
Made it much easier.
Yeah, this is a tenant change, and it's a similar tenant, and he exceeds the requirements. or the site exceeds the requirements for the square footage of the salon, so should be any issues. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Laura, you're going to be calling the roll, or is it clerk?
Clerk, can you try calling the roll?
Sure. Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Khan? Aye. Mr. McPartland?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Ms. Shenfield?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. Resolution is passed. Good luck, Mr. Miller, at your business. And as far, I think we're all set here, Laura. He just has to come in to get his building permit. Is that?
Yep.
So you just come on in the office or call ahead to make sure somebody's here and you can come out and get your building permit. And we don't, nothing further on the agenda for you tonight. Okay, congratulations and good luck.
Good luck.
All right. Okay, I'm losing it tonight. The world of paper. There we go. Yeah, so next we have a second resolution for tonight on our new business, and that's Resolution 2021-27, a resolution for site plan approval for delivery pickup lanes at the Target store at 428 Balltown Road. And again, I'll summarize. Resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission has determined that the proposed waiver to allow the Target drive-up expansion and signage has a minimum negative effect on aesthetics and compatibility with the surrounding shopping center commercial zoning, and therefore grants this waiver for said proposed site plan and hereby grants final site plan approval. And the waivers include, there's a couple of waivers. I got them written down somewhere. Okay. Yeah, the signage exceeds by 0.75 square feet. So the waiver allows that to go on. And also the height of the signage is 7 feet versus the 4 that's allowed. So there's a 3-foot waiver there. And of course, there was a previous, and if not previous, we're also the beacon is higher. So this allows all those to go forward as submitted in the latest application. Do I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Oster, and I have a second.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. McPartland. Any discussion?
No, it sounds like they improved it from what was originally proposed, to reflect comments that were suggested at previous meetings, so it's good that they listened.
Yep. Do we have anybody online representing the applicant? You
Oh,
know,
yeah, she's here.
she's there?
Yeah, Veronica. Yeah, can you speak, Veronica? Oops. I can't unmute you, Veronica.
Okay, well, I just, we have, unless she has some questions, I think we're in pretty good shape here. We have a motion and a second on the resolution. And I think, like as Mr. Oster said, I'll just repeat, we pushed back a little bit on the amount of parking spaces and the size of the original request, and Target downsized it and minimized the sign and the number of poles. So we do appreciate their consideration in this matter. I guess we'll just go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Oster?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Khan? Aye. Mr. McPartland?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Ms. Shenfield?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. Resolution is approved, and Target can move forward with their redesign and addition of their pickup lanes. So thank you.
Okay, Veronica tried to sign on with the phone. That was the feedback for a second. So we appreciate you being here. But I think it's just building permit now, the same for you as,
Mr. Mills, yep.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Veronica. All right, that's it for resolutions tonight. And we'll move on to discussion items. First up under discussion is 2147 Eastern Parkway, and that's a mixed-use building, medical professional office, and that requires a special use permit. And the applicant's Mr. Lisi. Project lead is Mr. Diarpino, who's not with us tonight. Do we have Mr. Lisi on the line tonight?
No, and he had specifically stated he wanted to come to this meeting, so that's why Linda's watching for him out there.
Okay.
Maybe we could come back to him.
We can come back. Yeah, we can come back to that. All we had was just basically as an update, this, the open items that we're going to talk about. So let me just stop back on that and just remind me so I don't forget. We'll move forward on the agenda. 2837 Aqueduct Road. It's an application for a rec center building at Rivers Ledge. Also tonight, the applicant called in, decided that, well, they weren't ready from the last meeting, the suggestions that we had. They were going to modify the site plan. They were going to possibly look at relocating the building further away from the property line, or the other option was to shield the building with a berm, and they weren't ready tonight. So does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we're just going to move on since we have nothing new to talk about. Any questions regarding Rivers Ledge from the board?
No, Chairman.
Okay, we'll just move on to tonight, and I'm sure they'll be with us next meeting once they get a chance to update their drawings. Next is 3410 State Street, and that's a site plan application for the addition of upstate guns and ammo. I don't know if we have Mr. Serafini, the applicant, online tonight with this application. Oh, I can see him, I can see his face there.
Hey, Craig.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, beautiful.
Great. And I believe, again, Mr. DiRapino is a project lead in here, but I think we just want to get an update and talk about where we go next with this project. And basically, the update is that the Zoning Board of Appeals approved all area variances required to allow this project to go forward. So what we're at now is getting into the details, since you have your approvals, so now you can invest the dollars required to, to bring this to closure. I know you have a concept for the building. So I think the next thing is really probably, unless there's more detail that you want to include in that concept, is get together with the Architectural Review Board to make sure we're going down the right path with the building, along with all the site plan things that are required, such as the lighting and landscaping plans that will be required as part of the plan to address some of the feedback that we received, I believe, from the Conservation Advisory Council. I think that's where we're at. So the ball's pretty much back to you, Mr. Serafini, to move it along and submit some more details to us so we can review it. Does that make sense? I can see him, but I can't hear him.
He's frozen in our screen.
I apologize, everyone. Please bear with us. And that's what we need to talk about tonight, is just basically agree on direction for Mr. Serafini so we can keep this project moving forward. We do have some time constraints based on a previous ZBA approval to allow the temporary storage on site. And I know that I won't speak for everybody on the board, but as long as he keeps moving it forward in a timely fashion, I think we can be flexible on those dates, even if we need to modify any approvals. But basically, the ball's back to Mr. Serafini to start detailed site plan details, basically.
I think he's unfrozen.
Hey, Craig, can you hear us?
Mr. Serafini, can you hear us?
Are you muted? Because we heard you
Are you-
once.
We can see your image better.
Are you calling in, Craig? Yeah.
All right, he's calling in, so just bear with us for a second.
Okay,
All right, can you hear me?
there we go. Yep, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. Seems I'm having some technical difficulties this evening.
Okay, Mr. Serafini, did you hear anything that I had to say at all?
I can hear you.
All right, did you hear the comments I had earlier about where we stand? Basically, what I said.
Okay.
Basically, all I said
Yep.
was,
So
okay,
basically, for myself, my concern is, we've got a timetable that we're striving to maintain, and obviously we're getting right close to the wire. I understand you'd like us to visit with the Architectural Review Board. You want to see a lighting plan. I know wanted to see about, getting some sort of landscape plan in place to, kind of mute the foundation of the building a little bit more. What else am I missing that you feel would be appropriate for keeping us moving at a proper pace?
I'm trying to move through the agenda here on the slow computer that I got, but I think that's the major items. The Architectural Review Board, is I guess is a biggie because of the proximity of the building to the Albany Street, because of the two front yards that you have. So, that, I think that's probably the more critical thing. But just basically having your engineer, now that you have your approvals from the ZBA, to get the details to us so we can hone in on it and move it forward.
Okay. I feel like we are definitely in position to be able to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've invested time and energy and money to get this far, so it appears that you're staying in this unit and you're going to go ahead with the construction with the addition, which we're happy to hear, now that you have your area variances. So basically the ball's just in your court to, go to the next step and get us more to review, and so we can get to a final approval.
Okay, then I guess I'll speak to Laura and Clark tomorrow in regards to getting in touch with Architectural Review and getting that moving forward.
Yep, and I assume, Laura, that we'll be sending it out to the town engineer also, fire and police, because now that once we have some more details on the building, in case they have any comments.
Yeah, we had him do a first pass for special use permit, but we'll definitely send another one out
All
again.
right. And
Okay.
Yep, and that's basically it. Hitting the other item, I'm just looking at the agenda statement, was have engineer confirmed that there's no stormwater runoff or drainage issues because of the elevation changes of the site. And that might just be an experience thing, especially with all the rain we had in the month of July. You should know whether there's any issues or not. And then, of course, the building height, when you get into the details of the design, make sure that the building doesn't violate the 35-foot maximum height requirement based on that average grade, measuring off of the average grade. I don't expect any problems there, but those are the things you need to watch for, Mr. Serafini.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for us? I think you can handle, if you need some direction, calling the planning office or building department. You should be able to get the answers you need to keep this moving forward.
All right. No, I'll be in touch with Laura and Clark in the morning, and we'll make sure that we're keeping it moving.
Great. All right. We thank you, and thanks for your patience for getting hooked up with us tonight. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. We'll move on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Craig.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Next is One Research Circle. This is the special use permit for the wireless antenna on the GE water towers at corporate, or at their, that used to be corporate R&D, GE Global. And representing the applicant tonight is Mrs. Darling.
And Chairman Walsh, I'll be recusing myself from this one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan stated that he'd be recusal for this project. And I guess the only thing I have to say is that this is moving forward pretty smoothly, is that town board did have their public hearing. Understanding was there was no comments, and the same night they had a resolution because there wasn't any comments anticipated, and there was no, and the resolution's been passed. So you're back to us for your final site plan approval now.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. And, the things that we like is that there's an existing tower that you're utilizing. So that's what we prefer, and that's fantastic. And so I think we're, who got project lead on this one? I guess that's Mr. Laflamme, you project lead on
I
this?
think it is, yes.
Yeah. So I think we're ready to call for a resolution for final approval for the next meeting. Is you okay with that?
I am okay with that.
Is
Are
any-
there any conditions the town board placed on it when?
I didn't see any, no.
They
And
also felt like it would be okay to add antennas to this location with just the building permit.
Right, so if there's a need to add other antenna, again, the town pushes and strives for co-location of antenna. So it would just make sure, it would be, whoever is in charge of the tower and GE, making sure that there's no interference from the signal, and, physically the tower can handle it, and that's all engineering. And that would be handled through the building department. And we would have a condition, our final resolution that states that, so that you don't need to come back to the planning board, because obviously we like co-location, so it's fantastic.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a resolution for approval for the next meeting with those conditions. Is there any other questions for the applicant? Or comments on this project at all?
None that I could think of. This is, and again, this is going to be attaching to the existing water tower. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Okay, we'll have a resolution next time for approval, all right, which is the August, I think it's 28th, right?
23rd.
23rd, August 23rd.
Great. Thank you for your time.
All right, no, thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. All right, so we're good there. And next up, we have, let's see, 2635 Balltown Road. That's Trinity Baptist Church, site plan application for a picnic pavilion and recreation field. And this is a new project tonight. And hello,
Hello, I'm Tess Healy, and also here with our Larry Noyes and Pastor Josh Ansello from Trinity Baptist Church. Trinity Baptist Church is located on Balltown Road, just north of the
Is that on?
DCC. Okay, and Craig Elementary School. And if you'll see in your packet, there's been a recent survey done of the church. And so you might be familiar with it, has a wide front lawn, and then there's the church building, the parking lot behind it. The entire parcel's over 7 acres of land. And then behind the parking lot is 3.6 acres of undeveloped land. And the church is seeking approval to clear part of it. 2.4 of it is dry uplands and 1.2 are wetlands. And they would like to clear it so that they can have room for recreational playing fields and eventually a pavilion, but currently they're just seeking to clear it, and a subsequent application would be made for the pavilion. And speaking with the town planners, we understand that a 25-foot vegetative buffer would need to be maintained around the wetlands borders. Concurrently, the church is also seeking a nationwide permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, which would allow them to eliminate 10% of the wetlands. And so that would just make it easier. As you see on the plans, there's this thin line, which represents it's not a stream, it's just a drainage pipe from the parking lot that's a little bit lower. So they could eliminate that if they get that permit approval. And then this little triangle down here and part of this arm that sort of reaches in, and just opening it up then for better playing field conditions. And then, as I mentioned, that second application would be for a pavilion, a 60 by 50 foot pavilion, which would be located near this existing entrance. And the area is generally pretty flat, so it would be minimal grading would be expected just to, after the trees are cleared, to blend it in with the existing remaining land and making sure to direct water runoff just within the property so it wouldn't be running off the property at all. And of course, any stormwater prevention measures that are required, such as erecting a silt fence before and during construction, would happen. The wetland and buffer areas would be taped off to prevent any equipment from going into them. And the clearing is going to happen with volunteer work, but they would try to do it as quickly as possible and then restore it and add topsoil as needed and seed the area to, again, prevent any runoff. And so I'm available to answer questions, but also the pastor would like to share about why this project is so important to the church.
Good evening.
good evening.
Basically, we want to do this project for a couple of reasons. Number one, we think it'll be a great location for our church to meet, to fellowship, and to have different church events and whatnot, especially in the pavilion, but also the field. Be a great place for the kids to play games and whatnot. The pavilion will be a great spot for just dinners and church get-togethers and whatnot. So we think it'll be a really great place for our church to bring our church together in fellowship. But we also think it's another reason we want to do it is because it really gives us more room to do different events and whatnot, whether it be outreach to the church or just different events that we have. We do a sports camp every summer in July, And we have been, in the past, we've been renting space from the JCC. There's a trail that goes back through the woods to the JCC, which is okay, but that trail, actually, there's trees that have fallen all over it. There's no clear path back there anymore. And we would just like to utilize that space for our own church and to be able to do some of our sports back there and whatnot. We also did a Easter egg hunt back in April, and that's one example of an event that we would have probably back in that field there is an Easter egg hunt, and just different things that we do at the church. It would give us more room to have outdoor space. Basically, right now we're pretty much limited to our front lawn, which is big and good, but this would be an additional space for us to do church events and whatnot. So,
Sounds great. Could you state your name, please?
Josh Ansella.
Okay, thank you, sir. No, it sounds reasonable. My question, one of the questions I had was you just mentioned that was a pipe, that it wasn't a stream. When I was from the drawings, I couldn't tell that. Is that an active pipe? Is there a large flow coming through that? Do you have any idea?
Larry, do you want to speak to that?
I believe it's a stormwater drain. If you've got the map in front of you, we had to have the line replaced actually just it was last year. Apparently there's a break in the line, so we had to have the line replaced.
So the line's going to stay then?
The line's going to stay.
Okay, I thought you said it was going to be removed. Yeah.
If you follow that line straight back, you'll see a little square close to the church, a little white square. If you follow that line back towards the building, the surface drain.
Yeah, is that like a catch basin back there? So, yeah, so that line would be, it's buried and it would maintain being buried, because I thought you said it was going to be removed, but no, okay.
We just replaced it.
Replaced, because that seems like that'd be important to connect those wetlands, for any drainage or anything. So, but you'll have that reviewed, but I don't know if you're the engineer, we can have it engineered to make sure that's all reviewed as part of the package for your submittals and
I
everything.
believe it was already done, I believe. Chris Foley, I think, was the ones that did
Right.
the drain line.
Right.
And actually, one of the problems was the break was not allowing, right at the edge of the parking lot, there's a lot of cattails as part of the wetland area, and it wasn't draining properly.
Yep.
So when we realized what it was, they sent a little camera through, they found the break, and so we had to replace it. So now some of those areas, it was just filling with water. It wasn't being allowed to drain.
Okay, so Laura, is this something where we have either a town designated engineer or the town engineering take a look at, just to make sure that, with that, it's just been reviewed appropriately, for drainage and the wetlands, et cetera?
And we should probably find out who it was that we talked to, Chris.
Yeah, because obviously you can look and get a permit, you're going to disturb, so I want to make sure it's, done right, that's all, Sounds like a good project, and I'm supportive, and I'm sure the board will do what we can to help you out here, but I just got to make sure that everything's okay there, So that's just, engineering for what you'd like to do there. The other thing that I thought was missing is that, the future plans. I know that right now this is like phase one, and the other thing would be phase two, but you must have some kind of a vision or a plan that would show where the pavilion would be, because you're obviously modifying the wetlands in order to accommodate your future plans. It would be great to show, even if it's only a draft or a sketch of what you're thinking. It would be important because once you're going to do this work to mitigate wetlands, right, and to clear. And you want to make sure that you're going to get approval of what you're going to do in the future. So I would think it'd be nice at least to start that discussion in parallel with this phase one. For instance, if you take a look at the aerial that you guys submitted, you can see that there's a cul-de-sac and homes right behind there. So things that we look at would be potential noise, lighting, making sure lighting stays on the property, things along those lines. So I'm sure you want to be a good neighbor, no doubt about it. But those are the things that once the public obviously hears about this, there might be some concerns that arise. So it'd be nice to have see what you're thinking down the road.
Absolutely. We'll have a site plan available at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And the pavilion, just for your curiosity, would be located at the opposite end of the property from the cul-de-sac.
Right, right, because it's, right, Laura, I mean, we usually, that's kind of things we hear concerns from the public, so we just want to make sure we get off on the right foot, and it sounds like you're thinking about that by proposed location, but it'd be good to see it, okay?
Okay.
I can't tell, what is the elevation between the area that you want to clear and the neighborhood behind? Is it
I think
level?
It's level.
It's level.
Mhm.
There's no downhill or,
As part of seeking that permit from the Army Corps, we'll have to go in and get the topography for
Okay.
the entire area.
Okay.
So then we'll see it better and be able to address if there's any drainage to make sure it's not directed towards the development.
okay,
Mhm.
all right. And then,
Is the buffer that was mentioned in the write-up
Yes.
explicitly going to be between the new developed area of the property and the houses in the cul-de-sac?
No, the buffer is a town of Niskayuna requirement, and it'll just border the wetland perimeters.
Okay, so that's why I understood when I read it. So those are wetland buffers strictly for the wetland. So I
Yeah.
think to the last point, Chairman Walsh and Mr. Oster were making, I think it would be good to see what the plan is for some form of buffering relative to, I mean, we're actually in the backyards and side yards of actually the cul-de-sac that's there, correct?
Yeah, but that looks like that shouldn't change on that backside. It looks like you're not going to disturb or do anything on the backside, only on the, I guess, the far side of the residence. But usually, sort of our site plan, a lot of times we request like a split rail fence or something that delineates the 25-foot buffer.
Okay.
Usually is what we ask for, or at least discuss as a potential requirement. So that way, over the years, people know that that's the start of the 25-foot and not to disturb things versus, slowly encroaching over the years, closer and closer to wetland as they mow or do things, But that's a detail. You haven't made that application. You're only talking tonight about clearing and the wetlands, but that's why it'd be nice to see what the future holds, so.
But Jengis, there are wetlands directly behind the homes, which are then going to have a 25-foot buffer. So the wetlands are almost by default a buffer to the homes. Do you see that?
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of seeing there too, Laura, and that's why I asked.
There could be a small area here where the wetland buffer is not in place. I mean, is there a requirement to also leave a property line offset?
There can be between commercial properties and residential homes. That's definitely something you should look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this considered a commercial property, being a church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's zoned residential, but the building codes and the site plans and stuff apply to it. So for that reason, it's commercial.
Okay.
So can you clarify, is it required?
I mean, it just it depends on the type of clearing. And we talked about this before. Like if you're putting a field, there's definitely no buffer requirement between commercial and residential property. But out of respect to your neighbors, if you've already got that buffer going for the two of them, I would suggest adding it to the third one.
Okay. Initially, that was part of the plan. The church is concerned that they're already losing so much space to the buffer that maybe they wouldn't have enough space for the playing fields to leave an offset as well. But it's a work in progress. But that's just what they're trying to weigh back and forth, because they won't go forward with the project if there's not, sort of an adequate amount of space remaining.
Let me ask you this, Tess. You're obviously intending to go through the trouble of obtaining a permit from the Army Corps.
Mm-hmm.
You're disturbing wetlands already. The way the wetlands lay out right now, it really isn't conducive to one open area. Would the applicant consider disturbing more wetlands to maybe maximize one area that's suitable for recreation fields, that's well buffered from the neighbors?
Oh, you're saying to just focus on this portion that's away from the cul-de-sac?
Well, what I'm saying is you have some wetlands that would appear to be either created in part or in whole by this big parking lot
Mm-hmm.
behind the church. So if there were a way to maybe reroute some of that wetland area with a grading plan to provide you some more direct access to the proposed recreation fields and maybe create more of a rectangular area adjacent to your parking lot.
Yeah. In other words, consolidate differently.
Consolidate wetlands a little differently.
That is the intention. I mean,
Well, how do you intend to access, what's the intention in terms of access to these recreation fields? Because I only see two very narrow passageways between wetlands
those are the access points.
with a 25-foot buffer.
I spoke to the town planners and they said that just for that entrance area, that buffer could be waived since they're existing access points.
Yeah, so the buffer's not waived, but they are already there. Like if you walk across them, it's already a culvert and gravel. So they're allowed to use them for access. The buffer's not waived. Remember we had that conversation? but they, as long as they're not changing it, they can gravel over it or whatever. They can use those for access. But I wonder if, Patrick, what you're saying is like, rather than disturbing like that big chunk that's kind of in the middle, if you look down at the chunk that's like next to the parking lot, if you took that chunk instead, and this gets to Kevin's point where like maybe you really need to figure out the dimensions of the fields that you want to put in. Like if you're like, okay, I want like a soccer size field or I want like a baseball diamond size field, just figure out like what size you want and then start putting that on there and playing with it along with the gazebo to make a space that would be useful. Because probably to Patrick's point, and we didn't talk about this, he just said it and I was thinking it too, it'd be sort of nice if you could kind of see it from the church rather than like to have to, I mean, I would assume, in which case maybe you would think about disturbing a different part of the wetlands. If you're going for 10%, see where you can maximize your fields and maximize your 10%.
That's definitely something that the church will have to consider in their meetings. And they're not planning on formal configuration sizing of fields. I think it was going to be more open-ended, just field games sort of field. So they don't need to put a baseball diamond in that's regulation size or anything like that.
That's good. Well, it sounds like you're flexible, and if I can just echo what Laura and Chairman Walsh have said, I think this phase 2, we'll call it, of the church's intended project is really part and parcel of your application here. I think we need to see the final grading plan in order to understand its impact on the environment and the neighbors.
Okay.
And I've got one aspect that no one's mentioned. The neighbors might be concerned about the loss of habitat to the deer, because they do most definitely use that property.
Okay.
When I come home in the dark from up north, I often see deer on the church property.
Yeah,
And
I'd say they're everywhere
they're not
along
a
Balltown
protected
Road.
species, but actually last winter, they were crossing Province Avenue because they had such a lack of habitat.
Yeah.
And with the deep snow, they were having a hard time finding food.
Yep.
If you ride on my street, you'll see the results.
What's the status of the review with the Army Corps of Engineers?
It's going to be submitted. We need to get the survey done with the topography before that. It's an extensive list of requirements for that permit. And so we're gathering them. But since you want to see the grading, then we'll have it done anyway once we receive the topography, and then we can summarize what sort of earthwork will need to happen.
Yeah, again, we just want to make sure that, and I'm sure you do too, is that, what you want to do and with your long-term vision, it'll accommodate it. Now's the time to make sure you get what you want, and we can help you, to mitigate any problems early on. So, again, with the usual planning stuff, lighting, noise, habitat, et cetera. And that way you'll be successful. So if it requires, thinking about it a little bit more, maybe changing where the wetlands that you're going to disturb, then now's the time, I guess. So just make sure you know what you want in the long run.
Thank you
And
for
we'll
that
be here
feedback.
we'll be here to help you.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate your time.
All right. So thank you for kicking it off. And I guess we'll we'll put you on the agenda when you're ready to talk some more. You can always, welcome a call to planning office, they can help you out, any questions that you have. And is anybody offline or anybody online or anybody here have any questions for the applicant at this point in time? And we'll also try to assign a project lead too from the planning board to interface with you to help you out also.
Very good. Yeah,
All right.
the town planners have been extremely helpful, so, and thank you for your time. this
And
evening.
thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you again. Okay, let's see. Next would be 2340 Knott Street East. And that's the Knott Landing signage that was included in the packet. And that's the apartment complex right across from ShopRite Plaza.
So Russ, that's you. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you can hear me, Russ.
That's Mr. Hazen, right?
Laura, I was trying to recall if there was any monument sign included in the original site plan.
Yeah, we definitely discussed it when we were talking with them, but they never submitted a full sign package for it.
Oh, okay.
And I know Clark and I struggled a little bit. We looked on there and we don't actually see where they're putting it.
That's what I was looking at, yeah.
Which is why it'd be nice to get.
Scroll down.
Do you see it?
Laura, I think they show where.
Oh, they do show where. Okay,
Oh, right
I was
here.
looking in the same place that Mo was looking. Okay. Okay, so they do show it. Okay, and it is 10 feet from the lot line, so that's good. So it doesn't need waivers for anything like that.
Do you want to summarize, Mr. Hazen, before we start discussion? The sign proposal?
I'm trying to find his phone number.
Did we have, be the project lead for the apartments? I can't remember.
No, I think it was David.
Was David also?
It was David.
David? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. While we're waiting for him, I did, obviously get a chance to look it over. I just took a ride over there to take a look at the current Knott's Landing sign, which is down the road. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to check it out. But there's a, sign for the Knott's Landing, the original condominium complex there. It's actually down, is it Greens Farms Road? Is that what it's called? It's down the road a little bit on the left near the mailbox kiosk, or whatever you want to call it. So this sign, the name's similar, Knott's Landing West Apartments. And looks like from the drawing, the sign again is 10 feet off the roadway toward it, along the road in front of the building, vice down near the entrance on the side where the Knott's Landing condominium sign is located. So it's a little bit different. I'm not saying it's good or bad, just want to make that point that out to the board. It does look to me, and I was going to ask Laura, see if she recalls, or we might have to look it up, whether or not the Knott's Landing condominium sign required any waivers or variances. It does look to me to be higher than 3 foot when I got down there. So, yeah, but it sure looked like it was higher and similar in size, different design, but similar in size to this proposal, is what I could tell just from looking at it.
I presume it's facing
Could you
not.
put your microphone up, please, just a little bit?
Presume it's facing Knott Street, either direction, coming up or coming down, as opposed to facing the plaza.
And that was one of the questions I had, because the way that it's shown on the drawing there, it looks like it's perpendicular to Knott Street East versus parallel. And it says that the side sign is single-sided, so to me, I need some clarification from the applicant.
Oh.
Because
Why would they, why would they have,
yeah,
because that's gonna be.
it says single-sided.
Yeah, that would be weird though, to have like basically
Yeah.
a backside facing one side of the street.
So something's wrong. So maybe the sign is going to be parallel to the road and it is single-sided, which would make sense, obviously. But if we get Mr. Hayes on, he can address those.
But it
questions.
looks like in the diagram, like it would be perpendicular.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Diagram says perpendicular, it's only a single-sided sign. So I think it's supposed to be parallel. And then the question I would have, would they consider putting it down along the entrance, down near the entrance, similar to the other sign or not. But I'm not hard on that. It doesn't make a difference.
I'm kind of indifferent when it comes to the location as well. I'm not sure that I would support a waiver for the height. I do believe there's some good reason to have a freestanding sign's entire bottom close to or in contact with the ground, especially when you're going to have some pedestrian traffic in this area.
Yeah, I was trying to take a look at the change in grade or the elevations there, and I think that might be why it's up off the ground. If you look, it looks like it might, there's like a little hill there, and I'm not sure if it would impede the vision of the line of sight to the sign.
Okay.
And that's why it might be a little bit up. But again, I think it's, and Laura can validate, I think it's similar in height to the Knott's Landing condo. So, most likely it looks like we might have given them a waiver, or they received an area variance to, so I just want to be consistent with this applicant also.
So Russ Hazen, can you hear us? We heard you at the beginning of the meeting. Can you unmute yourself? If you're having a hard time unmuting yourself, you press *6, or you can call my cell phone. Remember, I gave you my cell phone number earlier today. I'm going to remove you from the meeting to see if you can call in and call back and be unmuted, okay? Let's see if this works. Okay, we'll give him a second.
Okay, bear with us for a moment, please. Thank you.
And unless I missed it, this sign is not going to be lit?
No, it looks.
It doesn't say anything on this middle, so we need to talk to him.
I'm somewhat concerned about the color scheme, that it's not going to be very visible on a gray day or dusk or whatever.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know whether or not the condominium sign is lit or not.
Hello,
Hey, Russ, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay,
It's
so we
never
have some
registered.
questions for you.
Russ,
Okay.
hey, Russ, were you able to hear anything that we said?
Oh, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now, Russ?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I don't remember what I said, but now I got a microphone. So he just had some comments regarding the sign, and one of the comments was it shows a single-sided sign, but if you look at the site plan, it looks like the sign is placed perpendicular to Knott Street. So so we're looking at clarification. Is the sign going to be? We assume you mean to have it parallel to the road, not perpendicular to the road. That's why it's single-sided. Is that correct?
Right. And that was kind of, why he would want a single-sided sign perpendicular to Knott Street. I didn't really understand the reasoning, but I'm just, representing him on his behalf. We could make it double-sided if this would get through, and we can lower it down a little bit. I mean, or he mentioned maybe we could just put that size sign on the building.
Well, I don't know if I like it on the building personally, but, I'm just it's up to you guys to submit what you want, and then we'll review it. So, again, so if you want to make it parallel to the road, we'll evaluate it being parallel to the road, which makes more sense since it's a single-sided sign. Is that what you're saying? That you would rotate the sign versus what's shown on the site plan?
Well, I think the idea of being perpendicular is when you turn on the Knott Street, and if you're going, heading towards the town hall.
Yep.
It's not a big sign, and you may see it, you may not see it. I would say you would see it because it's not a heavy traffic type road with a lot of distraction. But again, I'm just representing what the owner wanted to see on the property.
Okay, so what did he want to see? You want to see it perpendicular or parallel? I'm confused.
He wanted to see something perpendicular, single-sided.
Okay,
If it's perpendicular, it
yeah, it
has to
doesn't,
be double-sided.
yeah, it's got to be double-sided. That makes, I'm sorry,
Okay.
it doesn't
All
make
right,
any
well,
sense.
I think he would be agreeable to that.
Yeah, I think it would be a graffiti target, the blank side. I mean, yes.
It
So,
should be double-sided anyway, because the people
Yeah.
living in the apartment, like looking at the back.
yeah, so
Yeah.
okay, so if it stays where it's at, we agree that it should be, if it's, well, we agree that if it stays there, that it would be perpendicular to the road and it would be double-sided. The other question we talked about is whether you would put it down on, is it Greens Farm Road, where the Knott's Landing condominium sign is located. I don't know if you had an opportunity to take a look at that. That sign is actually down the road near the entrance. And so another proposed location could be this sign over near the entrance, the drive. Has that been considered at all?
Well, I guess pretty much whatever you think would work there, we're in agreement to.
Yeah, again, it's whatever you guys propose and we review. We don't want to give you direction on where to put the sign, right?
Well, we like to get approved what we submitted, but if there's some minor changes in what you would like to see, we would be willing to do that. We could lower it down a little bit. We can go to a double-sided sign, or he mentioned maybe just put a sign on the building, which I'm not in favor of. I just don't
Yeah.
think that looks.
I'll speak for the board. I don't think we're in favor of that either. All right, so let's talk about this way. Okay, so we'll put the sign perpendicular. It'll be on both sides, Knott's Landing, West Apartments on both sides of the sign. And consider lowering it as long as the topography allows that to occur. And so that the sign would still be visible. Is that something you could take a look at?
Yeah.
All right. We also have a couple questions. Is the sign proposed to be lit at all? Any lighting?
No. I think he may be planning some external floodlighting, ground lighting.
Then we would want to see that.
Yep, and then we want to see that also because the application does not have that on there. It doesn't show it being lit at all. And that's pretty important. And then the color scheme looks like it's dark gray, light gray, two-tone gray with white lettering is the way I understand it to be. Is that true?
Yeah, it's the sign actually has raised lettering. It's a very, very beautiful sign. It's not just flat painted like you see out there. It's dimensional and yeah, white lettering, has a gray background, and some white aluminum post, like a colonial style.
Okay. All right, I think we hear you say, how about I open it up to questions from the board, either here or online? Comments from the board?
Does it have to say apartments?
Yeah, you got
Does
to
it
pull
have
that,
to
pull
say
the microphone
apart-
forward, just pull.
Does it have to
there
say
you go.
apartments?
I think so personally, because of the condos. I know there was some concern from the association of the condos because of the name Knott's Landing, and it's west. So to me, I just think it makes sense to discriminate between the two, but no?
Well, no. I actually just thought it would just be more, the word apartments kind of might bring it down a peg. That's, even though they are apartments, I just thought that like maybe it just,
I think it's needed for clarity.
Yeah, what does Mr. Hazen have to say? Is that what the applicant wanted, the word apartments on there?
Is that a question to me? I'm sorry.
Yes, the word apartments, is that something that the applicant requested?
Can't quite understand what you're saying. Your word apartments?
Maybe Laura, can you speak into the phone there?
So we were just wondering if you considered Knott's Landing West, without the word apartment, so it would just be Knott's Landing West, or if you just like Knott's Landing West Apartments. Because if you did Knott's Landing West, could you make the font bigger or something like that?
Not really, because if you take the word, what's the objection to the word west?
Oh, no, it has to have the word West. We were wondering about apartments.
Yeah,
If it,
yeah, okay. You can't make that any bigger because you only have, a certain amount of horizontal space there.
My question, Mr. Hazen, was whether the word apartments is necessary to the sign.
do you have to have the word apartments on the sign?
I think I would have to go to the owner, but it would make sense. I mean, if they're apartments, it's, if they have vacancies and people are driving there and they say, hey, the department's here. Not land. I mean, it might be obvious to a lot of folks that this is an apartment complex, but I don't know what the objection there is. I don't know.
Yeah, just a
what
question.
the
Just a
reason
question.
is.
Okay. All right. So here's what I hear then. All right. So I think we need an updated submittal. Can you hear me, Mr. Hazen? I don't think he can hear me.
So Russ, can you do an updated submittal? We want to see it
Mhm.
double-sided.
Okay.
It needs to show the lighting because we've had some issues with ground lighting that kind of shines into the lights, into cars, oncoming cars and stuff. So it needs to show the lighting. And then,
Wanted to see if we could lower
Do you wanna-
it based on the topography.
yeah, so based on topography, can you give us like just your recommendation if you can lower it or if lowering it is going to cause problems for it to being seen?
Well,
Yeah.
The main reason is you go down to 2 feet, and we have some pretty hefty snow up in these areas, and then you have lawnmowers trying to get underneath signs, and if you don't have the right help mowing, you could damage the sign. It's just 2 feet to me is very low.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
I mean, you're gonna check the Knott's Landing condominium sign, because I think, that one exceeds the requirements also. So I would like to be consistent with this application.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So the 2 feet comes from the fact that ground mounted signs typically like sit in flower beds or they're like walls that are touching the ground. Whereas this
Right.
is more like just a freestanding sign, but we only allow ground signs for apartments. So like that's where that 2 feet comes in. But if you didn't want to do like the full wall, or you weren't trying to like landscape it into like a little island of a retaining wall or something, my understanding would be that you probably would want it higher than 2 feet just for visually. So if the planning board, generally speaking, is okay with the clear underneath the sign, the planning department would probably recommend that it actually be that 3 feet. 3 feet isn't even that high.
yeah, I know, again, I know
Now,
you
going forward here, do you make a decision tonight
No,
based on?
we
No.
need the revised submittal. And we
All right, so revised submittal should show the lighting and its fact that it's double-sided.
right, and evaluate the height, make sure it's okay, that you really need what you need.
Yeah, and just maybe put together a narrative on why it needs to be 3 feet high, or if you can make it lower.
Okay.
And
My next question is a building sign an option? A single-sided building sign?
No, we don't want to see a facade sign.
Okay, all
anybody
right.
else comment on that?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I agree. I'd rather, this is much classier than sign on the building.
Yeah, I think the monument signs are much better for
Yeah.
for wayfinding
Yeah.
for the apartments, and also it has the address right out there, so that's gonna be good.
And I'd like to remind the
Now,
board and the public,
We have to go to another meeting?
Yeah, so you need one more meeting. We would potentially call a tentative resolution with the proposed changes.
if the board,
Okay.
if the board is good
Okay.
with that. Is the board okay if,
Because no
Yeah.
matter what, the sign requires a waiver for the size of the parcel.
exactly, that's what I was just gonna say. There's a couple waivers. One would be the 12 inches if the sign stays at 3 feet above the ground. And usually we need a 5-acre requirement. This site's 2.53 acres. So there's also a waiver required there, which we don't have a problem with because obviously we approved the site. So they need to have a sign. So I don't have a problem with that.
Do any of us recall whether the condos have a monument sign?
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I went over and took a look at it just for, here's,
Yeah, I thought you
it's just
said that.
down the road on Greens Farm Road on the left near the mail kiosk.
So hold on.
And it
Once
looks like it's higher.
you enter Greens Farm.
Yes,
Yes. And then
It's not out
off
on the
to
road.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, got it.
right. And it's higher, but it does have, to Laura's point, it looks like there's some landscaping and it's, a flower bed or whatever
Okay.
underneath the sign, so, but the sign does look higher than,
But from Knott Street, you can't see the condo sign
Uh,
unless you're
you can,
entering the
you
farm.
can see it, but you have to look hard for it.
Yeah, okay. And I couldn't see it when I was
Yeah.
Googling it.
Okay, so get an updated submittal with those comments that you heard, and we can have a tentative resolution. And if the board's not happy with it, we'll pull the tentative resolution, and we'll have everybody go out and take a look. How's that? Does anybody have any concerns with that? I'm glad to hear if you do. Anybody online have any concerns? I see some no heads, some shaking of heads. Excellent, Mr. Khan, thank you. Okay, tentative resolution next meeting, and thanks everybody for your patience.
Okay, Russ, so get that revised submittal to Clark and I, and we'll see you at the next meeting. You're okay to sign off.
Okay, and I'd like to thank you and Clark for your professionalism. It's a pleasure to deal with you folks. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, that brings us to 1851 Union Street, site plan application for a new maintenance building, septic tank, and stormwater management area. And we have some representatives of the applicant here tonight. It looks like we got a potential drawing. And we do have a package. I have it in front of us here. Unfortunately, we're having trouble.
Yeah, we've been working on it so that we can just put it up on the screen for you, but so far, no tonight. Sorry.
Yeah, we got some technical issues tonight. First principles always work. Now, Laura, do we need to move this so that the camera can zoom in on it?
Thomas, can you hear us? Can you see that? Yeah, oh yeah, that's probably good. Huh?
Yeah, that's
Can you
good.
see that? Oh, he says good. Yep, you're good.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Kimmer from ABD Engineers. I've got Bill Sweet with me tonight too. And we are here on behalf of Mohawk Golf Club, who would like to redevelop their existing maintenance facility. Right now, you can see here, this is the golf club. You got Union Street, Balltown Road. And basically right in the middle of the golf course, they have a maintenance facility with 3 buildings. And they're pretty old buildings. They're a little outdated. The facility is not good enough to meet their needs anymore. So they're looking to get rid of an existing, it's about 2,500, maybe 3,000 square foot building right here, and replace it with a 12,000 square foot building, which will serve as not only a maintenance facility where they can actually store all their equipment inside, work on the inside, but it'll also have administrative space, which is right now housed in this building. We'll be putting in a new septic system for this building and new additional stormwater area to deal with the new impervious area. That's really about all there is to it.
The administrative building you just mentioned, is that coming down also?
So they need that building to be up at least until this building is built. That's the only building that,
Right.
is livable and habitable. So after this building is built, they may keep this building for storage. They're not really sure, but this building is just, they know that at least this building is going to suit their needs and, be a place to start for them.
So her maybe is what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. Yeah, I talked to Mr. Sweet prior to the meeting. I was confused because I know several years ago we had an application for a building and I thought it was a maintenance building, but apparently that was the golf cart storage building. That was the last probably major addition that was on site. And as far, one thing is, thank you for the submittal and it's pretty clear. But one thing is we don't have like the 2,000-foot view. So this is pretty much in the middle, right? You're saying it's nowhere near any residential property from a.
Yeah, you can see here, it's at least a quarter mile away from.
Do you know if it's visible from Balltown, Union, or Millington or those?
I might be able to offer some clarification.
Sure, yeah.
Being a 40-year member at Mohawk.
Hmm.
No, that area of the golf course is only viewable from the 3rd fairway
Okay.
and the 17th fairway.
Thank you. Okay.
And
So
is-
it's not near the 14th, which is like near
No.
Rowell, the end of Rowell
That's Rufford
Road. and
Road and-
That's,
no.
because that would be my only question is about the extent
If
to
you
which,
went down 14
yeah.
and you then hit the 3rd green and you took the maintenance road to the center of the golf course, that's where you'd see these buildings.
Yeah, no, but just because there is that water maintenance area and it is a downhill slope going down into Rowell Road, and that's where historically some of the flooding issues have come. I mean, I know there's been efforts to try and,
Well, since we
Control
constructed
that,
that,
right.
I've never seen water in that retention basin.
Yeah.
And we put that in probably 10 years ago.
yeah.
So my question is along those lines, with this additional impervious space, I mean, what impact do you feel it will have on that retention basin?
Well, planning on having a.
It's not, if I could, it's not even adjacent. The
Isn't it down-
retention basin that we're talking about is over on the 14th hole.
Right.
This is, well, if you can find 14.
Yeah, where is this basin?
Well, if you go, where your finger is,
Rowell Road and
It's not on your
below
map.
Yeah,
It's further, it's above the map is what you're saying, right?
well, it's fair to say it's further away, but I do believe it's downhill.
No,
It's not downhill?
no, as a matter of fact, if you take a look at the aerial, we've got 3 other ponds that are lower than the retention area that are in front of the 15th tee and the 4th tee.
Fair
There's
enough.
a drainage swale that runs through those, and there's another outlet that we worked with the town to clean up years ago, going through the ponds, and then we've got a creek on property that actually runs that way as well. And then there's a pond in front of 10, so all those water connections deal with all the stormwater runoff that we have at the golf course.
And the retention pond that was built at the top of Rowell Road within your site, you're saying is actually not downhill. It's actually its own grade
It's downhill from
Really-
Ruffner Road, but it's nowhere adjacent and not downhill from
from this
the other
construction.
ponds that I was mentioning.
Okay, all right, just to clarify.
Yep.
Yeah, so obviously, my concerns were how close is it to residential, because it's maintenance, noise, whether there's lighting at night, but it seems like it's removed.
It's got tree buffer all around
Yeah.
it too, so that we don't see it from the golf
Because
course.
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with the site, so that's.
Yep.
that- that's
Part of
on-
what we were looking at, we did some exhaustive investigation. Our superintendent now came from the Rochester section. So we took a ride out there and we went to Monroe Golf Club, to Irondequoit, Oak Hill.
Yep.
And we
Been there.
submitted the Oak Hill plans because what we're trying to do is replicate that on a much smaller scale. I don't know if you recall, at the time Oak Hill did theirs, that's when they hosted the PGA Championship. So they got a ton of money from the PGA and they spent about $3.5 million to build their maintenance facilities, courtesy of the PGA. So what we're doing is taking something on a little smaller scale, probably masonry up the first 5 or 6 feet, and then metal panel and steel standing seam roof, and with colors that would be consistent with vegetation. So it'll be dark browns and greens and things of that nature. And I think you brought a picture of Oak Hill, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a picture in that package.
Yeah, there was something in there. Was that submitted?
No, it wasn't submitted.
Okay.
It's just from Google Earth.
Okay.
But that's the.
And this is a little tough because this is off Google Earth, but you can see there's a stone base here to protect both the outside and inside areas of the
Yep.
maintenance building. Then there's steel panel. And then unfortunately, this shot just shows the massive roofs. These buildings are 17,500 square feet each. So that's why they're much larger in scale than what we're talking
Yep.
about. They also have 2 18-hole golf courses there that they have to maintain.
Okay.
And it really is just, it's out of necessity really, because since Mike Rutherford became the owner of the golf club, he's made significant investment. And we've purchased an awful lot of very valuable equipment now to maintain the golf course, and we need a place to put it. And unfortunately, the building that we want to demolish is probably, as I said, I've been there 40 years, and that building was there when I joined. And it's nothing more than a wood frame pole barn.
Mhm.
And this new building, the administrative function, if I might, because I thought that might generate some questions. Break room, locker room, shower area, a mud room where they come in from outside if it's been a rainy or muddy day. They get to clean up a little bit, all washable. And then there'll be a mechanics area for a shop. There'll be a parts room, mechanical room, a grinding area, and a paint booth. all within that building. So it's probably 30% what I would consider to be finished office, functional staff space, and 70% will be more for storage of equipment and maintenance and ongoing operations.
How long is it going to take to manage the demolishing of the existing building?
Probably about 6 hours.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
serious. It's wood frame and it's got
Okay.
steel panels screwed on it. And I've actually had somebody reach out to me already and said they would take it and disassemble it
Yeah.
and then move it to remote property that they own and
So-
reuse the building.
So 17 hole golf that day, not 18.
No, actually, we can demolish from inside on the property. We wouldn't
Okay.
even have to be on the golf
All right,
course.
all right.
That's the beauty of where this is located. It really is central to all the golf course property.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that making investments in the property, right? So I mean, that's a good sign and
Well,
welcome sign. So that's
yeah,
great.
he's, between clubhouse upgrades and repaving program that we did last year, and then having to reconstruct the pool and the cabana building, he's made a considerable investment and continues to want to do that.
That's great.
And membership is up, so that's good news.
So I guess the bottom line is keep moving forward. Next is getting some engineering details, right?
Well, I think we're pretty good with.
Pretty well worked out, site plan wise, as far as what we're gonna do, grading, utilities.
Because everything is really right there now. So as far as utility connections, we're just going to be reusing
Right.
what's already on that site in that general area. So yeah, we've worked out the grades so that we could deal with the septic area and with stormwater.
Has all the details been submitted to the building department already, or is that?
Oh, no. We started here.
You're starting here.
So building has not been involved.
Okay. I mean, that's where it's at then. I mean, it seems reasonable to me. And again, I welcome the investment. Does anybody have any questions or concerns regarding this project?
Just one. I take it joining a sewer system is not an option.
We don't have sewer in the center of the golf course. So to extend that sewer line would be a considerable expense. And what we're talking about is seasonal employees, 25 to 30. They're there from March, and then it picks up a little bit when the college kids get out. And during the summer, it's the full crew. And then come September, October, we're back down to probably 10 or 12. So the water usage is really minimal. So the offset to bring the sewer line from North Country Club or from Rao Road or Ruffner Road would be an extremely high cost to do that.
Okay.
And because the grades are all different too, we'd probably end up with a force main.
Just want to clarify that for the record because we have been encouraging people to get off septic tanks wherever possible.
Yep. No,
But we have a
totally
portion of
understand.
town that we haven't been able to make sewers even available.
Right.
So there are exceptions.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the county that gives permits for the septic system, right?
Yes.
And obviously, so it'll have to be designed accordingly when you do all your analysis, right?
Exactly.
The soil, so.
Yep.
No, it sounds good. I mean, there's, the details will be submitted, and it sounds like, Laura, it sounds like we're probably gonna have to have a town designated engineer take a look at this, what I assume.
Yeah, so did you guys submit a stormwater analysis with the plans? I can't remember. I don't think so. Did you? Okay, so we need your stormwater analysis. And then the other question I just had was, I was just looking at it quickly. It looks like there's a very small pitch and it's 16 feet high, so maybe the ridge, the total height of the ridge is 16 feet, 10 inches. Is there a way for you to make that 15 feet? Do you know?
Probably not, because I need to put a 14-foot overhead door.
Okay, so potentially you still also then would need one area variance from the zoning board for height.
The accessory structures are 15 foot.
That's the question I was gonna ask. I see the 16 feet, 10 inches clearly. So what is the limit here?
I mean, unless there's something, I don't think you can get grandfathered in on new buildings. It sounds like a reasonable, it's not even that much higher than 15 feet. But if you can't make it 15 feet, I think you'll have to ask for the area variance to the zoning board.
One of the things that I can check on is if in fact he really does need a 14-foot door, because I wanted to put one 10 by 14 in case he had to back, the highest over the road vehicle into that area, because there will be probably 3 or 4 garage doors on the front. But I can check and see if our superintendent's okay with something maybe that would be 12 feet high.
Okay, and the other thing to check is we have an unusual way of measuring building height. So like, if you looked at grade and you tucked like a corner of this building into the grade somewhere, you may be able to also make that work. So
Yeah.
you guys know that.
Yeah, it's the average
It's
grade.
just on that street.
Yeah.
So also maybe look at
That's a
that.
great suggestion, Laura, because if you do look at the cross-sectional grade from where the building's going to be adjacent to the third fairway, we lose elevation going to the center where that old building is located. And our plan was to build a retaining exterior wall,
Maybe
so to
keep it
hold the
open.
slope. And then, so let's say the back of the building, you would only see maybe 12 feet, and the
Right.
front, you would see your 16.
Yeah, so he knows, David knows how we do the elevation. You need to confirm your grading plan that the average elevation of the building isn't over 15
Because
feet.
our elevation here and here is going to be much lower than there and there.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, yes, it needs to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll probably help us.
Hey, just for comparison, on the existing buildings, what's the tallest one right now? What's its height?
It's tall.
I was going to say, it's probably over 16 feet. I haven't measured
Okay.
it because we were taking it down, but just
Okay.
eyeballing
So,
it.
I mean, this is, from a height perspective, this is expected to be better, correct?
Oh, yeah, and there's trees all around it which tower over the height of the building.
It's just our code. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to either meet the code or go to the zoning board.
Right, and just like the other applicant, I encourage you, just whatever you need to work,
Yeah, I think-
get what you need,
With
and
the
we'll work,
existing
we'll work
grades, I
through it.
think we can come to the balance there where on average we'll be less than 15 or less.
Yeah, and based on the location, again, I don't have a problem. You make sure you just get what you need, and we'll work through it, whether it's average grade or whether it's CBA referral. You just want to make sure you get it right, especially based on where it's located. It's
Well,
not
and
gonna,
I'd like to avoid CBA if possible, because I would like to be in the ground this fall. And so that we can turn this over sequentially, I'd like to be able to turn it over to them before the golf's maintenance season starts, March and April.
Right.
And so if we can continue to move through this, and we'll figure out how to make the grades and the height work,
Right,
so I can avoid ZBA.
okay, and if you get the, all the information into the planning office, she can start her referrals, town engineering, and we're probably gonna hire, my assumption is to hire a town designated engineer, Laura.
Yeah, we'll have to.
And so,
So we need the stormwater analysis and the elevation analysis.
Is this going to require architectural board review?
I mean,
We can pass it, that won't change your schedule. Like, if they want to take a look at it quickly and offer you guys suggestions, we just fold that into what the board's looking at.
And I will tell you as well, we hired the same architects that did Oak Hill, and there's a very high level of sensitivity to that particular golf club and the surrounding neighborhoods, because they are much more adjacent and abutting to residential and other commercial uses. So that's why we chose them. Just we're looking at something that Mr. Rutherford and the membership can be proud of, so.
sounds good.
Mark, you know Oak Hill, right? You know Oak Hill?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed the building at Oak Hill there?
I'm not sure that I have.
Well, I can tell you the way I went in the day we went, we used the staff entrance, and you go literally through a strip center and a shopping center area. And you come in and they've got it all secured and fenced, and, it's very, very private once you get through that gate. But you come through a very commercial residential area on a main street in the town, and that's how you enter Oak Hill. So it's visible from that shopping center in their case. But again, I think they kept it at a maximum about 16 feet as well.
Okay. Get the information in, and we'll try to move it along the
Wonderful.
best we can, all right? And if you have any questions, you can call Laura, especially regarding town designated engineer. I think what usually you go for an estimate, is what you do, and she'll be in touch with, I guess you, Mr. Sweet, you're representing the.
Sure, you can. Laura, you've got my contact information, don't you? I'll give you a card before you go,
Yeah.
from before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, either Dave or myself, and then, then we'll get the check in for the potential
Application.
engineering fees and the
Yeah.
application.
Okay.
Mr. Sweet, I've heard your name often at my office. I'm Mr. Pemberton's partner.
Yes, I know that.
So he was,
Jim was a good friend for many years.
I know he's talked of you often.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear. Hopefully, knowing Jim, I don't know, was it good or bad?
Well, no comment.
Thank you,
It's a public
Counselor.
meeting.
Thank you, Counselor.
When's the last time we seen you, Mr. Sweet? Was it the medical office building on River Road, 2125, I think it was, or is?
We were involved in that, and then Laura and I had a number of meetings with Dave Bucco and Ray Gill, and we were working on trying to land somebody at the old Hillside Commerce Park.
Huh.
And yeah, so I think, but the last formal project was probably River Road, yeah.
The middle of, yeah.
And then before that is when we approved the cul-de-sac that's at Hillside Commerce Park now. We did the Unilux. Oh, no.
You did automated dynamics,
I was, did lot 5
and you did lot 5.
for the Lessie Group.
Oh, good.
Yep, so that would have been the last time.
Yep.
It's good to see you all again.
Yeah, welcome back.
New faces that I haven't seen before.
And thank you, Mr. Kimmer, also for coming in tonight. Appreciate it. Okay.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I've been going to a lot of these Zoom meetings at planning boards, and I've got to tell you, even with the little stumbles and bumps you had tonight, you did pretty good compared to what I've been seeing. So, yeah.
Really cool if that thing works.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
when you get the overhead going, that really is an advantage. But, everybody seems to have the same technical difficulties on
And a hybrid, yeah. I mean, we did quite a bit of, external meetings, and they went smoothly when the hybrid kind of brings
Yeah.
different challenges and, so. But thank you, and look forward to helping you move this along.
Great, thank you again.
All
Good
right.
to see you.
And again, from the planning board, we'll need a project lead for a couple of projects tonight. Trinity Baptist Church, I think would be okay with us landing the signage, but for this project also. So if you get a chance, think about it and send an email to the planning officer or myself. All right? All right, do we have 2147 Eastern Parkway? Do we have Mr. Lisi? Did he join us tonight? All right, if not, I think it's pretty self-explanatory in the agenda statement, the open items for Mr. Lisi. Maybe Clark or Laura can contact him and just let him know that the ball's in his court to move things along, right? Do some updates that we talked about.
Yeah, he doesn't have his special use permit yet from the town board, so it's not anything on our end that
Correct.
he's waiting for.
Yep.
But I know he specifically wanted to be on the agenda tonight because he does want to move it along. So he wants to work through the site plan issues with us. So yeah, Clark and I will reach out to him and just keep pushing. I know we need an updated site plan and some landscaping
Right.
plans and stuff like that. So we'll keep working with him
Yep.
on that.
Some more details, lighting and all the usual stuff. All right, great. All right, so that closes discussion items, and we'll move on to reports for tonight. Planning department updates. Laura or Clark, anything?
Hey Clark, do you want, no, you don't have anything? Okay. Yeah, so we'll bring back River Sledge and Eastern Parkway with hopefully updated plans next meeting. Still haven't heard back from Ace Hardware. I know they sent us an email, so we're working on updating that site plan with them. And still working with Luisi on the water line upgrades for Hillside. So, but still working away. And Kelt's also almost to the point of pre-construction meeting, so you may start seeing disturbance. It's possible that you may see disturbance over there before our next planning board meeting.
Good. Working through the issues, and I assume getting through,
Still engineering,
or the open
yeah.
items, I should say, maybe not issues, right? All right, and then the Historic Preservation Town Code, I guess I can speak a bit to that. So we were left off on Rev 5, and I believe we were at, there was some stronger language. I mean, I think, Mr. Briggs, I know you've been tied up, but you were going to supply some information to Dr. Brennan when you had an opportunity, right? I know you got a lot going on at the town, so we'll, when you get that opportunity, we'll take, we'll work on Rev 6, we'll pass that on to Dennis, right? And we'll get a Rev 6 and we'll take a look at it again. How's that? Is anything else on that, Laura?
Nope. I thought we gave them pretty good direction last meeting. We just haven't updated the code yet.
Yep. And COVID-19 update, Laura?
Yeah, so this is what we just said to the applicant. Like, we did have that working at one point, and I do expect that we can get it working again. We have the 2 hard wires that work really well. I think what's going on is that Netgear thing isn't working, but I think that we can make that work. And because obviously you're all in your masks, you all took your temperatures and everything when you came in, I think that this worked okay tonight, but anybody who feels any need to stay home and do hybrid, unfortunately, our IT guy just wasn't here today, so it was me. But I do feel that we can comfortably have this ready for the next meeting. So, feel free to just let me know, in person, home, all is well. We'll just keep doing it this way. Hybrid, I think, into the future, I don't see us moving to virtual meetings again that I can tell, because I think that requires an executive order, and I'm not sure that those can be issued anymore. So plan for hybrid, but if you want to attend virtually, totally fine. I promise you I will get it up and running. And I think this works okay, even just as a backup, because people can still see them. They can still hear them. We're seeing what they're seeing. They're seeing what what we see. So I still feel like even this backup is all right. So don't feel at all like any pressure to do one way or another. Both are fine. And yeah, did anybody have any questions about what's going on with
Will the town
renewables?
board be using the hybrid model also at their next meeting? Is that,
They don't do the hybrid. And the one thing that I do need to work on for you guys is we were lucky not lucky, but we just managed to not have a lot of public comments from the floor tonight. But I will have to figure out a way to manage the room if we know that we're going to have hybrid meetings into the, future, and we have this.
right, and making sure all the public and
Right.
all applicants know that we're in that position, so they come early,
And
et
yes.
cetera.
And so what I would do is, which is why Linda was here, is if we had a lot of people under privilege of the floor, we would rotate people in and out of the room. So I think that meets the best intent that we can to the open meetings law. We let them in when they need to speak, and we're streaming it always. Thomas is in there streaming. So if there are too many people out there, we can even turn the audio on out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will have a staff person to rotate people in and out, as long as we can only have this many chairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Laura, I was curious, when you is there a different computer connected to the projector?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's underneath Kevin.
Okay.
And did you know, I changed where the USB was, and that made it work for 2 minutes.
Right.
But I really actually think that if Seth can come in and hardwire it, then we won't have an issue. Because it's clearly not the internet, right? Because my computer isn't failing. It has something to do with that cable.
That's why I was going to ask, would you consider connecting your computer to the projector?
Oh, yeah, we could do that we could do that as well.
Because then you can kind of control what people see.
Yes, I can. If that computer would work, I can. Because I'm on the Google Meets, so I share my screen from my computer and it goes up there, and I can actually full screen it. It has worked. I do really just think it's that cable, and it's something I can't fix. I need him to physically be here in order to fix that. But I would say miles and away, he's doing a great job. I do just think it's that one darn cable, which we didn't have a chance to replace between this meeting and the last meeting.
Anything else, Laura or Clark, under reports?
So yeah, so email me if you have thoughts, ideas, concerns. I will help. But I think this model will be what we just keep working on for now.
Sounds good. All right, we'll move to commission business. Mr. Oster, anything for us tonight?
I do not have anything.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McPartlin?
No, nothing.
Mr. Laflamme?
No, sir.
Sorry, Ms. Gold?
Nope.
And online, how about Ms. Shenfield?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, and Mr. Khan?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Great, you can hear everybody loud and clear, and I have nothing further tonight, so thank you, everybody, as usual. Motion to adjourn?
So move, Chairman?
Move for adjournment by Mr. Laflamme. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Oster. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none opposed, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Have a good night.